Bestie, what happens to a dream deferred? Actually, I have a better question for you. Why are you waiting for a miracle to happen instead of moving towards your goals? Yeah, this is a tough love episode. Strap in. Hi. Yes, you're seeing my face this week. Don't get used to it though. I'm not sure if I can commit to always being on camera for these. It is called the Ceiling Rant Podcast for a reason, after all. Welcome back to the Ceiling Rant Podcast, where unfiltered thoughts meets honest conversation. If you're new here, I liken this podcast to equal parts healing and hot mess. I've been known to go from talking about the long-term ramifications of growing up with a male-centered mother who is your first hater to the latest TikTok craze and the state of the US economy, all in one episode. So if you're someone who enjoys a wild ride with a host that's fluent in Japanese, you found the right place. Now, before we get started, I just want to preface this by saying this is a message for me too. Well, it was until I decided to get my shit together about 48 hours ago. This message was on my heart because I needed to hear it. And so, since misery loves company, I decided to read both me and you for filth. Let's get triggered. Do you feel like you're in a period of stagnation? Like you're waiting for something or someone to break you out of this brain fog? I was talking to a friend of mine last week, and the way I described it to her was like floating in the ocean. And all around me, I could see buoys in every which direction. And over in the distance, maybe there was some islands. And here I am just floating, trying to decide what to do. Should I swim to the closest buoy, then take a break to catch my breath, then head to the next one until I finally make it to the island? But what closest buoy? The left or the right? Wait, which island am I even trying to get to? Next thing I know, I've spent so much time contemplating which way to go that I don't even trust myself anymore. I think they call it executive dysfunction or decision paralysis. I've waited to move for so long, I'm not even hungry for the goal anymore. Call it spiritual ozempic. Okay, spiritual ozempic is kind of crazy. Let's chill out. But you will probably hear me say that somewhere else. But seriously, it's a real problem I feel like we're suffering from as a collective these days. We're so overwhelmed and overstimulated constantly that there are just too many options and avenues, and it looks like everyone is succeeding but us. And I felt like that for years, actually. Strategizing and thinking and planning instead of moving. And then I look around and bitch, everybody else is swimming laps around me. The energy I expended making plans could have been used to move myself forward towards the goal and corrected the mistakes as I went. But I was too focused on trying to move with a perfect plan. Perfectionism, it's a cover for control. And you can't control everything, but you can control whether or not anything happens. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Fear is a growing pain. If you're afraid of the next step, that likely means you're moving in the right direction. And it's okay to be afraid, but you can't let that fear paralyze you from actualizing your dreams. Because, and I'm gonna hit you with some tough love here, your idea probably isn't special. Now, I'm not saying you're not special. You're special and unique, and nobody can be you. But just because you have an idea on your heart doesn't mean that someone else doesn't have that exact same idea in the chamber. And maybe they're not scared. I know that felt a little mean, but let me give you an example. Before there was a Kendrick and a Drake beef, one of the most high-profile beefs, so to speak, in music history was between the two legends, Michael Jackson and Prince. Now, we're not going to go into the history of their back and forth, but allegedly, Michael Jackson reportedly told his choreographer, Kenny Ortega, that if he didn't move on the ideas that God gave him, God would give them to Prince. Now, some people say that he said that in jest. Other people say that that's not true and it's made up. You never know, it's the internet. But I can't even count the number of times that myself or a creative friend of mine had an idea for content or a book or a movie or a project and just didn't move on it. Just to see someone else post the same exact idea a month, a year, a day, an hour later. Your ideas are not unique. The execution may be because no one can do it like you, but if you don't move on it, someone will. Now, if that's not enough motivation for you to move towards the direction of your goals, look, I know these feel like blanket, generalized, motivational talking points, but the honest truth is, no matter how specific we get about what your exact barriers are or the challenges you're having, maybe you have kids, maybe you don't have the resources financially, or maybe you don't have the technical knowledge you feel you need, or maybe you just can't get over the fear. When we reduce it all the way down, the answer will always be that you just need to move. Get moving. Do something, anything to move you towards your goal, because the easiest thing to do is to strategize it to death. And let me let you in on a secret. That's the easiest way to never achieve it. Don't stay in brainstorm mode. Don't stay in strategy mode. Make it exist first, and you can make it perfect later. But no one will ever see the vision if you don't even give us proof of concept. Speaking of proof of concept, let me spin the block on procrastination and strategizing to death. You know, strategy is daydreaming at a certain point, right? You're just fantasizing, and maybe it feels good, but nothing will feel better than completed action. Like, girl, that's a cute fairy tale you're giving yourself about the book you're gonna write one day, or the small business you're definitely gonna start eventually, but that's all it is until you make some movement on it. A daydream. Now, because I don't like to over-criticize without giving solutions, let's talk about some reasons why you're not moving and how we can stop that. Coming in at number 1 is shame. I cannot tell you how many times I've had someone in real life pull me aside or DM me about creating content. And they will yap me to death about which camera I use, or lighting, or how I edit, or how long it took me to get to 5K followers or 10K followers, or how often I post. Listen, I love the energy. I love talking to people about creating content, but I leave the conversation knowing they probably aren't ready to start creating yet, because they didn't approach me with an idea about what they want to create, just about the technical aspects of creating. For me, that's a telltale sign that you're in the beginning stages. You're afraid of looking bad or creating bad content, which is normal. But you can't jump in with the expectation that you're gonna have quality like Jackie Inat, or your vlogs are gonna hit millions of views like Mr. Beast. Girl, bye. Everybody's first video is shitty. And that's the thing, you have to risk being bad at something. If you aren't bad at it first, you'll never get good at it. And then sometimes people say, well, what if I don't get any views? Cool, then nobody saw it. And you don't have anything to be embarrassed about. Well, what if my family or friends talk about me? They are going to talk about you. They're going to put your video in a group chat and laugh, or message each other. Oh my God, did you see what she's posting? Isn't that weird? Is she trying to be an influencer? The honest truth is most people don't post content. Most people don't finish the book they say they're gonna write. Most people don't pursue the acting. They don't open the small business. They don't build that video game they can't stop thinking about, or start that podcast. Most people don't. So you're gonna look crazy to everyone you know. Start mentally preparing to look crazy. The worst thing that can happen is you fail. And who cares? You failed at things before and you survived it. You also learned something from that failure. You maybe learned a new skill. You learned that maybe you don't like that thing as much as you thought you did, but you didn't walk away from it with nothing. It's cringe until you're getting paid thousands of dollars for a 1-minute video. It's cringe until you're on a book tour. It's cringe until your small business is on a Good Morning America segment. It's cringe until you're the person people are asking for advice. Cringe is an illusion. So we're just gonna get rid of the cringe reason, because who cares? Who cares? Everything's cringe. Someone's listening to this right now and is like, this is cringe, you're cringe, you suck. Okay, I'm not for them. Who cares? Reason number 2, perfectionism. Are you a control freak? Welcome to the club. Sometimes though, we have to release the control. You can't control every factor. The sooner you become detached from what it looks like, the more consistent you will become. Maybe your form is bad on the first 100 squats you do, okay? Better that you did those 100 bad squats than no squats at all. 20 bad days in the gym is better than 0. 5K steps is better than your ass on that couch. And as your friend, I need to remind you not to tie your self-worth up in your ability to be perfect in everything you do. You're not a robot. Be so fucking for real right now. Be reasonable, please. And I'm gonna hold your sticky hand when I say this. If berating yourself every time you didn't get something right worked, you'd be perfect by now. Let's try something different this time. Perfectionism is also the best friend of strategizing to death. You can refine until your fingers bleed, but perfect on paper isn't really helpful, is it? Okay, number 3, low self-esteem. Nobody wants to admit that they have low self-esteem. I have suffered from low self-esteem. I still sometimes suffer from low self-esteem, especially when I have low confidence about situations or new activities, new ventures. You don't feel like you're good enough is the gist of it. I have been there. The first thing I'm gonna recommend to you is therapy. I know it sounds like I'm being shady. I promise you I'm not being shady. I know that came off a little bit rough, but I'm so serious when I say a good therapist can help you uncover who sent that messaging to you that you weren't worthy and why you internalized it. For me, it was a number of things, to be honest. My weight, my teeth, I thought I was hideous, and that was like a huge thing for me for a long time. In my mind, I was the ugly duckling of the family, the poor one, the homely looking one. I internalized that messaging very young. And I sometimes wonder what all I would have accomplished in life if I hadn't internalized it. It prevented me from doing a lot of things a lot earlier. And I'm gonna rip the Band-Aid off now and tell you the truth of the matter is that voice, that little demeaning voice that says all the mean things and puts all the self-doubt in your head, it's not even your voice. So go do the work of discovering whose voice it is so we can shut it up. Because those negative thoughts and doubts are lies. And the sooner you accept the truth about how undeniably talented and worthy you are of whatever the fuck it is you want to do in this life, the better. This next one is everyone's favorite shut you up excuse. I'ma shut you up. I don't have the resources. I don't have the money. I don't have the knowledge. Now, I'm not saying money and lack of experience aren't significant barriers to entry for any industry, but you can make something with what you have right now. It may not be what you want exactly, but it's a step closer. And you may find that that step opens up new opportunities for you to reach the next level on your journey. And because I know some of you are probably thinking I'm completely full of shit right now, which is fair, I'll use myself as an example. I wrote my memoir, Weak Inc., with very little resources. I wrote it in Word. I had no idea how to self-publish. I didn't think anybody would give a fuck about my life because who am I, right? I wrote a few chapters and I sat on it for I don't know how long, years maybe. I started writing it right after my sister was murdered as a way to just kind of purge everything that I was feeling. I didn't have anything but my mind, grief, and a $20 bottle of Josh Cabernet, and that rough draft was rough. I cried my way through writing my book. When I was finished, I researched dimensions for manuscripts. I looked up copyright laws on using Canva for the cover. I put, for more info on the author, head to champagnerenee.com. Bitch, there was no champagnerenee.com. There is one now, but I was just walking by faith. I was and still am very self-conscious about Weak Inc. because I know it could have been better. Better structured, better edited, produced better, maybe longer, maybe more fleshed out, but I made it exist. And because of that, I have over 100 copies sold, a self-published book. I didn't realize how difficult that is to be relatively unknown. I'm not a celebrity, anyone particularly notable, and to sell 100 copies of a self-published memoir, that's nuts. And now I'm adapting my book for film. I'm becoming a screenwriter in this process. I have no experience in the industry, no contacts. I'm feeling my way through this like a clumsy teenage boy trying to unhook a bra for the first time. I created content about my life just on a whim, and I had producers and literary agents take interest in my story. I had no idea what I was doing, but had I not created those stupid videos, had I not written that rough ass draft of my book, they wouldn't even know I exist. And the videos weren't perfect. Front-facing camera on my phone with just natural light, not even great quality. I'm a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids under 5. I'm creating on a budget, okay? So I networked to get the answers I needed. Met with a producer who recommended a screenwriting book to me that literally changed my entire perspective and made the writing come so much easier. I had a call with an indie filmmaker who saw my video and wanted to help me. She gave me some sites for free screenwriting software and helped me figure out how much money I would need to create my own web series based off the book. Spoiler alert, it's around $50,000 that I gotta come up with, give or take. We're working on it, okay? The point is, I've gone from nothing to kind of a framework. I researched how to create a pitch deck, and I paid for Substack subscriptions and read blogs and watched videos, and I even went to a webinar about it. So maybe I can't spring for a whole course on a pitch deck right now, but there are screenwriters who are content creators who have a Patreon, and I can get access to information at whatever level I can invest in right now. How much can you invest right now? And not even just money, but time as well. Can you work on your dreams at night, early in the morning? Can you record a voice memo to yourself working through your business plan instead of listening to your favorite podcast? This is an exception. Listen to this one. But what can you invest in your dreams right now? However little you think you have right now, mountains have been moved with less. And this is not to make you feel bad. It's to encourage you. What you have right now is enough. Don't fall into the trap that you need to do or have or buy a course to get started you can start with nothing. You want to act? Research what headshots look like and take your own on your phone to the best of your ability. Sign up for Actors Access and start submitting yourself for breakdowns. Most auditions these days are self-tape anyway. The barrier to entry is lower. Take an acting class at your local community college. If you can't take one in person, there are online acting classes. Your city probably has community theater. Check that out. Same with starting a business or writing a book, or hell, even if you just want to get more fit or learn to swim or cook or garden, whatever it is that you've been thinking about doing that you haven't put in motion yet, you can do it. And I'm only saying this to empower you. So I'm challenging you right here, right now. Spend a day with your thoughts. Get a journal, get a cute little drink, little iced bevy, little matcha, little glass of wine, whatever. Sit outside this weekend and write down what a day in your life would be like if you were living your wildest dreams. The woo-woo spiritual community calls this scripting, okay? So we're gonna script. Sounds super cute. Then flip the page over and write all of the reasons you think you can't do those things. List them out and be honest. Then on the next page, I want you to disprove them. Our brains are for some reason really, really good at logic when it's time to dream big. So we have to outsmart it. Is this really logic talking or fear? You can't start Pilates until you lose weight because why? You feel like you're too big and you'll be embarrassed? That's a real conversation I've had with a friend, by the way. I'm too big to go to the gym, girl. I'm embarrassed. What? When was the last time you went to a fitness class and thought about anyone other than yourself? No one is thinking about you as much as you think they are. Let that be freeing. You can't write down your book idea because you don't have time. How many minutes into this podcast are we? Oh. And we disprove by getting down to the bare bones of your barrier because it's going to fall into one of those categories we talked about. Shame, perfectionism, self-esteem, or resources. Everything is figure outable. Everything. Then build your goal up. I know most people say break it down, but I'm going to say build it up. Start at the easiest step you can take with the the smallest amount of resources. I'm getting tired. Smallest amount of resources you have and what little audacity you have starting out. And maybe it's just you sit down for 10 minutes before bed and write until the 10 minutes is up. Cool. That's step one. Commit to that for a month. Then what's the next step after that? Maybe spend one weekend consolidating all of that 10-minute writing into a couple chapters. That's step two. Maybe in a few months you find that you have the first draft of your book. Research your next step. Start at what you have, then build. Rinse and repeat. The only rule I have for this challenge is that you have to set a time limit. You can only strategize for one day. Then you have to take action within 24 hours. That means whatever you write today or this weekend, whenever you start it, you better be doing tomorrow. Because what do we say about over strategizing? And what do we say about somebody else having the same idea? You have to move. Motion. That was my word of the year, by the way. Motion. We are staying in motion. Do something related to that goal the next day. Make it actionable, make it repeatable, and do it. You got this. Finally, if you need an accountability buddy, I got you. I've created a community called The Path on champagnerenee.com, my website that now exists, where we'll be just keeping each other accountable on our respective journeys. You can treat it just like a place for you to network or just a place to get encouragement, community from people who are trying their best to do the best they can with what they have, like you. It is also free $99. I'm not charging you. There will be other levels of membership, I think, eventually. I haven't created that yet. See, I'm starting with what I have. You can sign up by heading to my website, champagnerenee.com, and clicking on The Path. I'll also include links in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. In any event, if you don't join or subscribe, I hope you were able to get something out of this podcast, and I hope I've been helpful in some way. As always, take care of yourself, and remember, your dreams don't have an expiration date. The best time to start might have been 10 years ago or 5 years ago, but the next best time to start is right now. Okay, love you, bye.